Before I found Curology, I worried a lot about dark spots and fine lines. Now my skin has really calmed down.
I've been using the cleanser every day and it's working great.
Take control of acne, dark spots, breakouts, or whatever your unique concerns may be with a powerful skincare treatment made for you today.
Go to Curology.com/stalking for a free 30-day trial. Just pay for shipping and handling.
That's CUROLOGY.com/stalking to unlock your free 30-day trial.
This content is sponsored by Curology. See Curology.com for all the details. When we started this show, I didn't realize how many different types of stalkers there were or how many different types of stalking situations there were.
I never thought that this would be the type of story we'd be covering, but when Stephanie came to us, it was one of the strangest things I've ever heard.
Stephanie is playing a character. She's playing a role. So it's possible that someone could get confused about her playing that role versus who she really is and begin stalking them both. It's like whether this woman knew that she was stalking Marilyn Monroe or stalking Stephanie remains to be seen. But ultimately, Stephanie's the one who paid the price.
It's the type of case that gives you goosebumps because you really don't know what's going to happen next. You really don't know who the bad guy is or where anything is coming from.
With women, we drop our guard whenever it comes to other women. When it comes to elderly women, we drop our guard. We just do.
I'm Jamie Beebe.
And I'm Jake Deptula. On today's episode of Strictly Stalking, we're chatting with Stephanie, a singer and actor who often performs as a Marilyn Monroe impersonator.
While performing at a birthday party for a client, Stephanie was approached by an 80-year-old woman who asked for her contact information and address so she could send her a thank you gift.
After the event, Stephanie received incessant calls, emails, and Facebook messages from this woman vying for her attention. When
Stephanie announced via social media that she was planning a festival, her stalker messaged her that she would be in attendance.
Stephanie arrived home after the event to find a waist-high bouquet of flowers from her stalker and her business inbox full of sexually explicit photos and messages.
Feeling like she had nowhere else to turn, Stephanie reached out to her stalker's daughter, who is convinced that Stephanie and her mother were in a romantic relationship and in love.
Stephanie, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Did you always want to be a performer?
Oh, always. Ever since I was a kid. My family was always really encouraging of my artistic side. And I've been singing since I was just a youngin', so to speak. And my mom was, she always put me like in talent shows and stuff. And I was always in there. And then I got into theater and I just kind of fell head over heels in love with it. And just everything in the performance aspect from acting and singing it just kind of called to me. So acting, singing, and then finally just production in general.
What pushed you towards being a Marilyn Monroe impersonator?
So when I was in high school, I was in Little Shop of Horrors and I was Audrey. So my theater teacher at the time they actually put me in a white dress, very much similar to the 7-Year Itch dress. And I had so many people coming up to me being like, you really look like Marilyn. I have my big blonde hair and everything. And then I ended up just doing one little show, unfortunately singing Happy Birthday, Mr. President, and not understanding the context of that whenever I was 17. And then once again in college, she popped back up. And then I did a couple gigs in Vegas and then did a few gigs out here in California. And then I started my business and yeah. So she's been with me for quite a long time. I'm very grateful.
And what exactly is your business?
So I'm with Marilou Productions. I'm one half of MarilouProductions.com. But also I do gigs. I do everything from shows and anything from events, from as small as tiny little birthday parties or singing telegrams.
What are some of the events that you had to perform at?
I sang for Charles Barkley for his birthday on Inside the NBA. That's probably one of my all-time favorites, with a huge cake with Shaquille O'Neal's face on it. And they were all lovely individuals. That was a childhood dream come true with the basketball fan in me. And then my favorite gig, oddly enough, was the one where I met my stalker. The first one, the gentleman whose birthday party it was, he his dad actually knew Marilyn, and it was amazing. Like, he knew so much about her. And so we were riffing back and forth, back and forth. There was just so much to be said. I would say something and he would quip right back. Oh, well, did you know that Marilyn did this? And it was incredible. We had such a good time. And we had a crowd around us, even though it was his birthday. Like, we had a crowd around us, and it was like a show in and of itself. He was just so G-dang delightful. I would have easily done this for him again, anytime. Like, I wish that every single client could be like him.
Do you see yourself doing this long term, or do you have other aspirations?
Oh, I love Marilyn. I'll always be grateful for her, but I very much have other aspirations. I've gotten into event producing, and oh my gosh, my heart just soars with it. It's just a whole other beast, and creating something from scratch and being able to say, I did this, and people are coming up and saying, thank you, this was amazing. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. It is just, it takes the seeing people be joyful because of what you did to a whole other level.
How far along were you in your career performing as Marilyn when you first met your stalker?
I mean, I was pretty far, but because Marilyn's been with me for quite a while. So there's that. But I mean, my business was still like kind of taking off, and it wasn't as great as it was like the following year. Whenever I first met her, it was still a little bit newer, I would say. But then like the following year, a lot had changed in my life, and I was like newly single, and I was just kind of like riding this wild wave, and everything was kind of crashing at me in a crazy, wonderful way. And so I was just, I was getting booked left and right and just doing so much that I didn't even think about. Like, she was an old lady. Like, I didn't even think about anything that happened with her, and I was raised to respect my elders and to just treat them with kindness and not think anything of her asking for my address.
What was your first impression of her when you met her?
She was sweet. She seemed like a very, verbose, grandmotherly type. She wanted to talk my ear off, but, she seemed just like, oh, honey, come here type thing. And I was charmed by her. I thought she was adorable. Why wouldn't I?
So after she asked for your address, like what was the next thing that happened?
So it was for her birthday, and I didn't even think twice about it. Of course I gave her my address. I was like, yeah, of course. She wants to send me a thank you gift. How kind is that? I was able to make her 80th birthday party spectacular. Sure, I'll give her my address. Why not? I've never done that with a client before because it's the performer-client privilege, so to speak. Once I'm done with a client, like if they want to book me again, they know where to reach me, email or phone number, and that's it. I'd never had this kind of experience before, but I really didn't think anything of it. I thought, okay, if she wants to book me again, that's one thing, but she's not going to be in my life.
My best friend in Hawaii is getting married, and I'm her maid of honor. I can't wait to celebrate. I even helped her pick out a wedding ring for her fiancé. She got the Journeyman from manlybands.com.
That sounds fancy.
It is. It's gorgeous. It's made out of tungsten, and it's rose gold plated with an inlay of genuine turquoise, deer antler, and koa wood. I didn't realize how much guys care about nice jewelry.
Yeah, we do. I chose the model. It's made purely of tungsten, but you can design your own from their insane selection of materials like gold, wood, antler, steel, even dinosaur bones, and the freaking meteorites that killed them.
Wow. Well, there's a 50% chance of your marriage working out, but there's a 100% chance you're going to love your band.
Manly Bands offers free shipping worldwide, a 30-day exchange policy, and a free warranty.
To order your Manly Band and get 21% off, go to manlybands.com/stalking.
That's manlybands.com/stalking for 21% off.
Manly Bands, the best damn rings, period. So, I have a confession to make.
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but okay, fine. I'll help you hide the body.
Okay, good to know. But I was going to confess that I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and I've been listening to all his books on Audible.
Great. Then I assume your ex is still alive?
Unfortunately. But the good news is that I'm obsessed with Audible and they have all my favorite books.
Well, I'm not surprised that you're such a big Stephen King fan.
And I love Audible. They have the largest selection of audiobooks anywhere, including my personal favorite, Pet Sematary.
Memoirs are my go-to. I like that I can download titles and listen offline, anytime and anywhere.
And best of all, the Audible app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets so you can listen across devices without losing your spot.
As an Audible member, you'll get 1 credit every month, good for any title in the entire premium selection. That means the latest bestseller, new release, or hottest celeb memoir.
And you don't have to worry about using credits right away. They're good for a year, so you can save them all up and binge a whole series.
Visit audible.com/stalking or text stalking to 500-500 and start listening to your favorite books today.
That's audible.com/stalking or text stalking to 500-500.
Once you gave her your information, she booked you for the event. What was that like?
So at her birthday party, she seemed like the life of the party. She was doting. She seemed like she was surrounded by people who really cared about her. Her family was there. Her kids were there. She had people in her surroundings who obviously wanted to be there to celebrate her. And she was very doting of me, definitely wanted me around her specifically. And anytime I'm entertaining, whether it's Marilyn or a different character, anything like that, I play the room. It's not just the one person. I'm always going to be mingling and everything. But it was like a normal event. Maybe just a little bit more, oh, this is my girl. She was a little bit more doting than other people. But I didn't think anything of it because she's elderly. She seemed very kind in an unalarming way.
And then after the party, she wanted to send you a gift. And so you gave her your address. What did she send you?
Oh, after her party, she sent me a jewelry box with my name engraved in it, and it played a little song. She sent me a tiara and a photo frame with a heart in it that had a picture of her in it. And she sent me the remainder of what my normal rate would have been, because I didn't charge her full price either. But she still paid me extra.
And did those gifts raise any red flags? What did you do with them?
I kept them for a bit. I was like, oh, this is too much. I was taken aback by how much they were, the fact that my name was engraved in a jewelry box, that was already a lot. I had told her ahead of time, please, you don't have to. I figured she was probably on a fixed income. I'm not trying to assume, but she said, I'll come up with the money. Don't worry about this. I'm not the cheapest, but I'm not the most expensive either. I'm not going to charge somebody who I believe is on a fixed income my full rate, typically. I'm not an asshole. I was a little taken aback, I would say. But once again, I was just like, oh my gosh, she was really touched by my performance. Kind of didn't occur to me.
So she was probably unassuming, because of her age and that she's a woman. When did things escalate after that first round of gifts?
So I had asked her to politely stop calling me so much, because whenever I would talk to her, she would say stuff like, oh my God, I thought you hated me. And I can't stand that. It makes me feel really guilty to hear that kind of language. And I would just try to make up for it. And instead, I'm hearing stories about people I don't know. And once again, this is I don't really have time for this. I'm, trying to balance my work and my social life and the things I'm pursuing. And she's a client. And I have to keep that distinction clients are not my friends. And she's calling me so much that it's starting to kind of mess with my head of like, she's elderly. I should be taking these calls. She probably needs somebody. And so once I started to feel like kind of anxious, that's when I had to start putting up the boundaries of, I can't do this. Please stop calling me. And when she completely neglected everything that I asked over and over.
How long were the calls going on before you asked her to stop?
Weeks. Let's see. I want to say calls were going on I'd say about a month.
What were you talking about in the calls?
Just random people that I have no idea who they are in relation to her. And that's the thing too, is I'm very much an advocate for mental health. And so I figured maybe she has some mental health issues and needs to talk. Maybe has a little bit of dementia or something. And so I wanted to be as kind as possible. It seemed like she just wanted somebody to listen to her at first. And then it started being like, I love you. I love you so much. It was gradually becoming a little bit more intrusive.
What did you say to her when you asked her to stop calling?
I said, hi, I don't even talk to my mom this much. I really don't have time, because these conversations would go on. I would try to get off the phone and they would go on for at least a half an hour. And, I would say, I don't hate you. I just really don't have time to talk all the time. And I just would really appreciate if you could stop calling me so much. I started off like that. And then once that was completely neglected and she continued calling me, texting me, emailing me, I finally had to send an email that said, I have asked you to stop calling me and you have neglected anything that I have said. So I have to block you on everything. And then I did. And that's when, once my boundaries were pushed beyond all reason, that's when I blocked her from emails and texts, or phone and everything. And
how many avenues was she contacting you? But in what ways?
So initially, in 2018, it was phone call, text, email. And then it wasn't until 2019, I didn't hear from her after I blocked her on all of those fronts. I didn't hear from her again until 2019, about 6 months later. And then it started being on Instagram and Facebook. And it was strange because it was like, oh, okay, she just disappeared and randomly got a wild hair up her ass or something and decided she wanted to come back. And it was bizarre because I've never met someone her age who was so technologically savvy, to say the least. She found me again it got to a point at the crux of all of this where it was every single social media site I was on. And it was every single account that I have because I have multiple, for my personal and for my business. And it was, multiple emails. And then whenever I would block her, she would find another way to find me, whether it was a different email that she would start up or whether it was a different phone call, she would have a different phone number. She contacted me from multiple phone numbers. She contacted me from multiple Instagram accounts. She contacted me from it was crazy. Every avenue that I had to kind of get away from her, she'd find me.
What were the messages like? What was she saying when she was contacting you?
They would just be just wanted to say hi, I miss you, type thing. They seemed harmless until 2020.
What happened in 2020 when things escalated?
So there was about a gap between July 2019 to January 2020 when there was no communication from her. Woohoo! Feel like I'm safe. It's all good. Jump to January 2020, and I begin seeing messages from her. She sends them to my business page on Facebook. And I don't see these at first because I have her blocked on so many things. And so it comes up as Facebook user. And that's when it's just bombardment of all these messages, like it's kind of crazy. But she starts finding me through our event page and for our festival. And every new post or story has a new comment from her. Everyone that we post, she starts commenting. And so my partner is absolutely wonderful, and she handles that for me. She's wonderful like that. But regardless, like on the other pages, I get a message from her almost every single day in February. Then March, she messages the page, seemingly like kind of an innocuous message about her car. And she doesn't live where I live. She lives about 2 hours away or so. And she ends up saying that she's going to come to our festival, which is a good almost 3 hours away from her. At that point, I'm kind of freaking out. And my partner is amazing. She handles it. She's, like I said, she's wonderful. The event comes and goes. She doesn't show up. Awesome. However, I come back home the night of my event, and at my doorstep, and my best friend had flown in from New York for this, and he's there with me. And I get home, and I'm like, oh my God, who sent me flowers? This is amazing. Like, they're up to my waist. Like, they are huge. And then I see it, and it's the card, and it's from her. And I immediately, like, all the color drains from my face. Like, I immediately start, just my heart pounds. It's just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this again? Really? After all of this, like, after telling her basically, like, I don't want this. Please stop. And then, I guess the messages continue the next day. And then, March 9th, I'm actually at my boyfriend's place, thankfully. And I get a call from the call box on my front door, and it's my neighbor. And she says, hey, Steph, I have this gal out here who's looking for you. And I hear her voice. And I immediately freak out. And I'm like, oh my God, do not let her in. Absolutely do not let her in. She showed up at my apartment, which means she drove 2 to 2.5 hours to come to my freaking apartment to look for me. Just what? Like, I'm just like so completely unsettled because she's at my place. And I don't even know what to do.
The first thing people see when they meet me is my face. So obviously my skin has to look flawless.
Your face is all over Instagram, so clearly you're doing something right.
I know, right? And I got help from Curology. Before I found Curology, I worried a lot about dark spots and fine lines, and now my skin has really calmed down.
And it's not just for women. I love using the daily cleanser, and it works great. I've already noticed my skin looks much brighter and more clear.
Getting my treatment plan was super easy. I answered some simple questions online, sent some selfies in, which we all know I'm good at, and a licensed dermatology provider sent me prescription cream to tackle my dark spots. Take control of acne, dark spots, breakouts, or whatever your unique concerns may be with a powerful skincare treatment made for you today.
Go to Curology.com/stalking for a free 30-day trial. Just pay for shipping and handling.
That's CUROLOGY.com/stalking to unlock your free 30-day trial.
This content is sponsored by Curology. See Curology.com for all the details.
How did you feel at this point? Were you scared of her? Were you annoyed by her? Were you, like, what's that feeling?
Violated. When I say that my life had drastically altered between 2017 and 2018, I mean I left an emotionally abusive relationship, and to have somebody come in and say, I'm going to do this to you, no matter what you say, very much felt that like that again, to where I'm saying, please stop. Please stop. I'm asking you, I'm begging you to please stop this behavior because this hurts me, because this doesn't feel good. This makes me feel a certain way that is not okay. And it brought that up, unexpectedly brought that weird feeling up of, this is not okay. This is violating, and this is I called my apartment at the time because it was the place where I was single, and it was the place where like I really learned so much about myself. I called it my happy place. And her showing up, it felt so violating of that happy place, of that place where I learned to be myself, like where I learned so much about myself, and then found my now boyfriend and learned how to be in a healthy relationship, and like learned so much about that and what that requires and what that entails. And it didn't just feel annoying. That was it. It felt incredibly I felt terrified. And here I am, I'm thinking I'm insane in a way to be scared of an 80-year-old woman. But after how many times do you have to tell somebody no? I should have to tell you one time. No, that's it. And I'm telling her for 2 years, no. No. Stop it. Get back. Leave me alone. I don't want this. And here she is, finding a way to maneuver herself within my life, and I do not want it at all whatsoever.
What were her messages like after the flowers? And were you responding to them at all?
No, absolutely not. I did not respond to her messages. On March 10th, the next day, I filed a police report. The police officer attempted to call her. There was no answer. And I get an email from her that randomly popped up into like a rarely ever used email. Like I said, I have no idea how she was so technologically savvy. I mean, it's like every single nook and cranny, every single like rarely used email or inbox that I don't ever really look at, she found a way to find it. It was mind-blowing at the time. I was like simultaneously impressed and just angry, and just felt annoyed, but also just harassed. Then on March 14th, all the messages became sexually explicit from her. And they continued. And then on March 18th, I got a call from somebody that I didn't recognize the number, but I get calls from clients, and I take them because a lot of times that's the difference between you taking a phone call or not is the difference between you getting booked or not. I didn't even think about it. I was at the grocery store. I was on the phone with my best friend, the one from New York, and I was like, hey, let me switch over. I think this might be either a detective, might be a client. Hold on, be right back. Switch over. It's her. Hi, honey. Hey, I'm here. I'm looking for your place and I can't find it. And that was the shift in my brain that I had never experienced before, that I experience continuously now. And that was the first time I have ever had dissociation. I've never had it before. I got tunnel vision immediately. I didn't even know how I got from one part of the store to the next. And I felt myself leave my body. Like I felt like I was floating. It was like my brain was like, nope, this is too much. We're not gonna. And So now, like, at this time, I don't know how to respond, except for I just said to her, I was like, I told you to leave me the fuck alone. Like, it was like I completely had detached from everything in me, so to speak. Like, it didn't feel like me. It didn't feel real. And whenever I like saw my boyfriend later, like, I couldn't come back to the ground. Like, I could not come back. It was the most like awful feeling, because I'd never experienced that before. And until I held him, until like he hugged me and he just was like, it's okay, you're here, you're safe. And at that point, that was whenever I felt like I was back in my body again. But I had never had that feeling before. I had never had anxiety or like that kind of depersonalization before, ever.
What was your emotion after you basically restabilized yourself and came back down?
I was just determined to do something. I can't let this continue. And at this point, I mean, this is at the beginning of the pandemic. And so trying to figure this out, I'm like, I don't know what to do. If I have to go to the courthouse, like, really in the middle of a pandemic? What? But I was just like, okay. Like, I just tried to give myself a plan, because I tried to not worry as much, which is ridiculous. Like, I'm going to worry. But I wasn't staying at home much. Like, I wasn't staying at my happy place much. I was primarily at my boyfriend's, probably to the chagrin of his roommates and during a pandemic. And, but I didn't feel safe being alone.
What was it like when you went to the police the first time?
I have a feeling you guys know the answer to this one. They claimed it would be an annoyance. So not harassment, an annoyance, because she hadn't done anything. And I will call him out by name, because he was the most helpful person and the only person who was helpful in LAPD, Detective Hall in Hollywood Division. He was amazing. And he helped me through this whole process. He was absolutely fabulous. He would get back to me at the drop of a hat. I was shocked, to be quite honest, which is terrible. We shouldn't have to say that about our police, but, it's true. Everyone else, and I know that it sounded ridiculous. Like, I think Detective Hall and I even had a kind of a funny laugh about it, because it sounds absurd. Hey, I'm a younger woman being stalked by an 80-year-old lady. What the fuck is that? Like, it sounds absurd. It sounds insane. It doesn't sound like the typical thing. And that's happened multiple times. Whenever I've said, I have someone harassing me, I have someone who is sending me sexually explicit messages, people are like, oh, you want me to beat him up? And that's what's, I think, such a mind fuck for me, is the fact that this isn't the typical stalker. This is someone who, I don't think it's even all about me. I think it also has some shit to do with Marilyn, which is even weirder. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I've had men who, while I've done gigs and stuff like that, who have been like, it's always been my fantasy to be with Marilyn. Fuck off. But like this, you don't expect that from an 80-year-old woman. You don't. Because with women, we drop our guard whenever it comes to other women. When it comes to elderly women, we drop our guard. We just do.
When did you decide to start the process for the restraining order?
I started that at the very end of March.
What was the restraining order process like for you?
Well, so I'm dealing with multi-county. There's nobody there. Detective Hall was incredibly helpful. And he basically wanted to make sure that I had as easy of a process as possible. So to mark every single thing down, print everything out, like everything that I could possibly get my hands on. And I didn't delete anything because of this. So I still have all the messages. I have all the shit from her, which is, like I said, is gross. But I made sure my I's were dotted, my T's were crossed. I made sure I had my shit together. I'm an incredibly organized person. And I knew going in there, okay, I got this. I can do this. This seems like it should be open and shut, because basically what Detective Hall was saying is like, once they became sexually explicit, then that changed the nature of it. It went immediately from annoyance to harassment. And that can warrant a restraining order. And then the fact that like she showed up at my apartment, stuff like that, like obviously nothing that I'm doing is actually making a difference to change her mind and her actions. So I go to the courthouse in the middle of a pandemic, and there's already, you have to like have paperwork. You have to have like all of this preliminary paperwork to even show why you're even there in the first place. And so I have to do that. And because this is multi-county, I had no idea that there were different regulations and different requirements from one county to the next. So from LA County to her county. By the fourth time that I got my paperwork sent back from the county that I had to send it to, the fourth time, and keep in mind, it's $40 every time that you send paperwork in. $40 that you have to pay to the other county, not including the other legal fees that you have to pay. I had everything tabbed. I stayed on the phone with the people at the other county and I said, you tell me exactly what it is, because I flipped my shit. The third, I was so upset and I was just like, I give up, this is stupid. Obviously, it's not going to work out. This is dumb. But also, it's not just that. They have to serve her paperwork. So they have to make sure that she gets the damn paperwork just for, what is this? The request, let's see. Because they couldn't serve her the paperwork for their request for the hearing. So that's a whole process. So because they weren't able to serve her the initial paperwork, so I had to get an extension. So then I had to resend paperwork back to her county. And then they weren't able to, I had to basically go back to the county clerk. I had to go back to the courthouse 5 different times or something because I kept getting my paperwork sent back. And like I said, $40 every time that you send it. Luckily, I'm very grateful that I was in a fine financial position to be able to handle all of this. This is fine. But for somebody who wasn't, that would be horrible for them. For somebody who's not in a, okay financial position and to have to go to all of these other steps, to have to send out their paperwork on top of having to deal with the stress and anxiety of them having a stalker, that's not some pressure that they should have to deal with. Nobody's there to walk you through this whole process of everything that one county needs as opposed to another. And it should just be self-explanatory. One state needs the same requirements throughout. It took me 4 months to finally get the restraining order good to go. And then to actually serve her, the county could not serve her. They said they tried. They said they made 3 reasonable attempts, which was bullshit. So I had to hire a process server. So that's another $250 right there. If I had been flat broke, I would have been fucked. Wouldn't have been able to do it. I would not have been able to get her served or anything. And yet she was served by the process server who, go figured, did it on 1 attempt. They did it fine.
After she was served, did she reach out to you again?
Oh, yeah. I mean, prior to this, I was during the process of all of this, she had called me while I was trying, she had been served with paperwork prior to the actual restraining order. So it was what I'm trying to remember what exactly it is. It's you have to appear in court. It was that paperwork of the request to appear in the court hearing. And so during this whole process, she called me and I was just I was so livid. I was like, screw it. My restraining order's not even good to go yet. So I have nothing left to lose. I was at this point just at my threshold. And so I was like, put your daughter on. put your daughter on. I'm done. Because her daughter had sent me a message on Instagram too of, how dare you take advantage of an old lady? Like, how dare you do this and take her money and do all of this stuff? And I was like, what the fuck is she talking about? Like, I didn't do anything. So I was about to clap back at what her daughter was saying. And then this broad called and I was like, put your daughter on, put your daughter on. And I told her the whole thing. She was like, oh, my mom made it sound like you two had a relationship and you were in love. And I was like, I'm in a committed relationship, in a monogamous relationship. I have not messaged your mother. I have an active restraining order going out against her. Like, I have tried for 2 years to get your mother to leave me the hell alone, and she hasn't. Like, I don't know what else you want me to do, but you need to, like, maybe monitor her actions a little bit more. Maybe she needs a little bit of help. I think it's ridiculous. If you think that this is happening and you think that I am here taking advantage of your mother, you saw me perform. You saw me there. How dare you reach out to me in that regard and just be like, well, and I understand, like, if somebody I thought was doing that to my mom and like taking advantage of her, I'd probably react the same. So I get it on that front. But if that's the case, freaking have consideration for your mom. Take care of her. That's the shit that makes me angry too, because the thing is, like, yeah, this stuff is violating to me, but it also makes me wonder what is happening to my stalker at this point. Like, she's elderly. I don't think she's in her right mind necessarily. And it's like the whole situation seems kind of fucked up to me because it's not a good situation. I don't know anybody who would want this on her end. As far as her kids, I don't think that they would want that for her.
How did the daughter react after you explained the situation?
She was just like, well, I don't know what else to do, And I was just like, well, I'm getting a restraining order against her. So, you need to take care of this. I don't want to be involved. I don't want this rigmarole happening again. I don't want to be messaged by her ever again. Like, I don't want to be brought into this. If somebody is impersonating me, trying to message to act as me, because I haven't messaged her. I haven't done anything to message her at all whatsoever. Or to give her a reason to continue messaging me. I'm getting these messages. I was getting those messages from her. I was not responding to any of them, especially once they became sexually explicit. And the fact that her daughter couldn't see, like, aren't you going to look at these and see if I'm responding? Or are you going to see if maybe your mom is getting fished? That maybe it's somebody else who's scamming her. If she's sending money out to somebody or something, then maybe look at that. Because I had to also contact my bank to send money back to her. That was a whole other thing. Because she sent me money via Zelle. Which is ridiculous. And then she did that again after the restraining order.
And how did you feel once you had that restraining order in hand?
I cried. I was relieved beyond all reason. Once she was actually served with it, because, you have the restraining order is approved, and then it's like, okay, well, now they have to serve her. And knowing what I knew about the county, that was a whole, oh, okay, well, we'll see. We'll see how they go there, how that goes, because, my luck with them had dried up. I felt probably a false sense of protection. This isn't somebody who's physically violating me or physically attacking me. So to the police, she's not a threat. She's not doing anything. So phone calls, emails, messages, shit like that, that's nothing. That's no big deal.
How soon after the restraining order was sent to her did your stalker reach out to you?
A week. She called me twice. Within a week.
Did you answer?
Oh, no. It immediately went to blocked voicemail, and I saw it was August 8th and August 6th. So that it went to blocked voicemail. So I saw it later, and I was like, I kept them for a while because I wanted to build up the evidence again,
What did the messages say?
Just, hey, it's been a while. I thought you'd want to hear from me, and I missed you, kiddo. Love you.
Has she ever acknowledged the restraining order and you asking her to stop contacting?
So I received money again in November, and I was planning another event, a drive-through event, and I was stressed to the max because it was like a very short timeline. This is this past November. And I received money from her again via Zelle, and I had it returned. And I called her county to be like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I don't want to get wrapped up in this fishing thing. If she's getting fished, can somebody just like go and check on her or something? Oh, no, wait, you have a restraining order against her? No. That's violation of your restraining order if that's the case. You're breaking your restraining order if you have somebody go check on her. So I didn't care because obviously the police don't care. Because I actually called the police after she sent me money because it's violation of her restraining order. And one of my Instagram accounts had gotten hacked. And so I'd had to start up a new one. And immediately as soon as I started up my new one, she messaged me on the new one. And so I contacted the police. Okay, well, if he's there, then you need to leave immediately and we'll be there as soon as possible. Is he threatening you? Okay, first off, it's not a male, it's a female. And no, he's not violent. She is not violating me physically. She is in violation of it on a cyber level because that is the violation of her restraining order. Oh, well, there's nothing we can do. I can't deal with it again. And so I called her. I said, I have a restraining order against you. A restraining order. Do you know what that means? And she was like, I didn't mean any. I was like, you sent me money. I have been trying to tell you to leave me the fuck alone for years. I don't know how else to tell you this again, but do not contact me ever again. Do not. Like, I lost it on her. And I absolutely, it is not a proud moment of mine. It's not something that I like to do. It really isn't. It's not something that I got off the phone and was like, yeah, I feel good. Like, I feel like a big bad dog right here. It's something that just that came out of me because I was at my absolute threshold. I'm done. I'm absolutely just done with this whole situation. I just want to be left alone.
And has she left you alone since then?
Since November, yeah.
Do you think that you'll hear from her again?
I don't want to hear from her ever again. I don't.
What do you want to happen to her?
I want her to get help. I don't wish her any ill will. I don't wish any ill will on people who have deliberately hurt me. I really don't. She's elderly. Part of me just will always have a little tug at my heartstrings for the elderly. Because I'm sure that this comes from somewhere. And whether it's just a fantasy in her head of like us being together, whether it's under the guise of Stephanie or Marilyn or whatever it is, it's not normal behavior. And it's not something that I have led her on to believe. And therefore, if it's coming from somewhere, wherever it's coming from, she needs help. And so my heart goes out to the fact that I can't reach out to anybody to help her. But I don't want to be involved in her life. I don't want her involved in my life.
Do you have any advice for fellow entertainers if they were dealing with a situation like yours?
Absolutely. Especially woman to woman. Have your guard up. Don't let it down. Even for the seemingly kind and sweet people. It's not to say don't let anybody in. It's just to say that stalkers come in all shapes and sizes and genders and forms. They're not the big, burly men that you typically expect all the time. They can be the sweet, grandmotherly type. And just keep your wits about you.
Why did you decide to come forward with your story?
Because I don't want this to happen to anyone else. I really don't. It's been a nightmare dealing with the freaking courts. It was something that caused me to have a form of anxiety that I never had before. And being a mental health advocate, I really do advocate for people to listen to that inner voice and to know when something's telling you that this doesn't feel right. And so if my story can help just one other person to not feel so alone, or to not feel like they are crazy, or to not feel like those feelings of depersonalization, derealization are coming from nowhere, or to feel like they are, if they're having trouble with courts, you're not alone. If you're having trouble with somebody who is harassing you, you are not alone. I know that we all have experiences in our life that are less than pleasant. And if I can't walk away from it with a learning experience and in a way that can help somebody else, then I don't feel like I'm doing my job as an entertainer.
Stephanie, what's next for you?
I'm continuing down this road of producing events, and actually have another podcast I'm working on as well. I'm very excited, very happy. But yeah, just really continuing down this road of producing more events and kind of getting more of those under my belt, and continuing on with Marilyn. She's my girl, but I love her so much, but I don't want her to be, she can't be my only legacy. So, I have other characters and such that I do, but she's my bread and butter, so to speak.
That's incredible. Well, that amazing closing words. Stephanie, thank you for joining us today.
Thank y'all so much for having me. And also just thank you for providing a venue for people to be able to tell their story, because I don't think an audience at large understands the grueling nature of what courts and police and people not believing you and people not, the whole system. I don't think that people really understand how taxing it can be on an individual. So thank you so much for putting us out there and letting us tell our stories. Really appreciate it.
And thank you, Stephanie. If anyone out there is in need of help or is a victim of stalking, please reach out. You can find a list of resources on our Instagram at StrictlyStalkingPod.
If you'd like to share your story with us on Strictly Stalking, you can reach us at strictlystalkingpod@gmail.com. That's strictlystalkingpod@gmail.com.
And now we're on Patreon, where you can sign up for exclusive bonus episodes, case files, and check out show merchandise. Just go to patreon.com/strictlystalking.
I'm Jake Deptula.
And I'm Jamie Beebe. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Strictly Stalking.
Hey everyone, I'm Christine.
And I'm Em, and we're the co-hosts of And That's Why We Drink.
If you like spooky ghost stories, cold cases, alien abductions, serial killers, conspiracy theories, or even boxed wine, then you are going to love And That's Why We Drink.
We cover stories like the Black Eyed Kids, Jeffrey Dahmer, the Amityville House, and Also, some very demonic dolls that we're not going to name here because they will actually make you ill if you hear their names.
Download And That's Why We Drink wherever you get your podcasts.
The world is a scary place,
And that's why we drink.